Hi there. If you're new to my sessions, these are the key takeaways you can expect. Basically, I'll cover the current and next Wyckoff stages, key price levels where PENGU will find support or resistance, and also any breakout timing indicated by the charts. And this time, it is the first time I cover PENGU. So if you are with me for a while, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it from scratch, showing to you how I draw all those Wyckoff tags as well as the key price levels. So let's copy the key price levels as well as the Wyckoff tags from peak, which we just came out from. Okay, let's paste them to PENGU. PENGU is pretty new. I'm choosing the Kraken chart. It's showing like a month or two more than Coinbase. I don't want to use USDT. It has a longer history with Binance, but it's fine because we know where it has came from the end of last year when it first launched. So it has gone through an accumulation period. That's the assuming that's over there, and the selling climax is not like a complete accumulation cycle back in like the first half of this year. So I'll do it on best effort basis. That seems to make most sense to me, because for newborn coins is not what we usually come across. They are sometimes, or a lot of times, exhibiting very different behavior from like after they have been launched a year or two later. Okay, that's buying climax over there. PSY, preliminary supply, automatic reaction, this red candle over there. No upthrust, but there was a second test immediately after last point of supply. Yes, plenty. One peak over here, a mini peak over there. If I change the line chart, it's going to be more clear, right? Okay, that's where we are. Potentially, we may be going through, or we are potentially entering another accumulation cycle. Not saying it's going to be at the exact same level as what we had in the first half of this year. It can accumulate at a higher level, just to make it clear, okay? We don't know until the selling climax appears. Now let's get to the key levels. Let's start with the lowest one. But before that, I have to unlock all of them. Now we are ready. Let's put this to the lowest point. I don't want to be lowest actually. I want it to be somewhere around here where it's surrounded by the selling climax plus the second test, all that. So this leads to the point 004. Let's adjust it. It's pretty low. It's actually 0.005, closer to that level. Okay, 0.005. That's the lowest point we have referenced. Not that is the absolute low if the price going to drop. Okay, don't mix up the two because the price can get lower than that. And now the second one, the orange key level. Remember, I always take reference where there are at least 4 candlesticks, whether it's their wicks or head or tails, getting around that line. So this is a good spot. We've got these 4 candlesticks. This one is close enough, and then we've got 5 others over there. So it's more than much, a lot more than 4. That's 0.009 or like 88. Let's say 9 is close enough. Let's make it simpler. 0.009. It's not going to move up too much. Okay, let's lock this, and then the yellow key level. Same principle. 4 candles at least. We've got 2 over here, and another 6 over here. That's 8 in total, and 1 more wick. 2 more wicks. That's close enough. That's 0.013. Let's get rid of the numbers at the back. Just the text. 0.013. Okay, lock this. And now let's get to the green key level. There aren't many reference points over here because, like I said, peak is really very new. Let's move up the light blue key level. The green should go somewhere around here for the reason that we've got 1 wick that's close enough, the other wick here, and 2 other wicks. So this 0.019 is good enough to be another key reference levels for us. Alright. Next, the reason I moved the light blue here, you see 2 candlesticks already, 1 head, 1 tail, and 2 other wicks over here. But there are close ones too, a little bit high above. So I would move it a little bit higher to this 0.026 level. That will be our light blue key level. And time to lock it as well. Eventually, the blue key level, it seems like it is sitting at where it should sit right now. That's 0.315. That's okay. So we've got more than enough candlesticks and wicks landing around it. So let's say 0.315 for this one. And finally, the purple key level. So here we've got a range that's this gap between the purple and the blue is narrower than the other key levels, but still this can be considered a key level, like besides the one like the buying climax. So I'll pick this over here, that's 0.035. Just to confirm, yeah, it looks right. 0.035. Okay, now everything is done in the weekly chart, and we clearly see we are at the at least mid stage, if not the late stage of a distribution cycle. Because what can happen other than going to the downside for an accumulation? While this can be 70% to 75% probability as of this moment, the price can still come back up to test the purple key level, showing us a second test, or even go higher to show us an upthrust. So don't be 100% sure that the price can go only one side. So that's the big picture, okay? Now let's get to the daily chart. Again, I'll have to borrow some text from the other chart. Okay, we've got preliminary supply, buying climax, automatic reaction, sign of weakness, second test, last point of supply, preliminary support, automatic rally, selling climax, sign of strength. I believe I don't want that to happen. Let me string this first. I don't want to redo this again, but things happen. So let's quickly capture the ones that we need. Another second test, sign of strength, automatic rally we have. I just need one more test. We may or may not have a spring, so let's bring that over as well and see what it looks like in PENGU. Okay, obviously they are swapped, so let's grab these guys for the distribution cycle and move them to the right hand side. And here, assuming that's the preliminary support, that leads us to the selling climax back in March around the 10th or 11th. Second test, well, actually it's pretty low. Let's use spring instead on April 9th. Okay, and then we've got this over here that in the weekly chart we can probably consider this entire period as a backup and last point of support period, but in the daily chart I would rather tag it as something different, because that's why we have this thing, right? Otherwise we don't have to do this, like separate tags for weekly and daily chart. So let's say that's a mini distribution cycle. Alright, let's borrow the tags across. I don't want to move them, I want to copy. So let's say what happened over here was the PSY period. There was this mini backup last point of support stage that lasted only for two and a half days. Alright, let me enlarge it so if you're watching on a mobile device it's going to be easier. Yeah, I can't move too much. Okay, now I can move. So that's, let's say that's where the buying climax was, or some people would say, hey, that looks like the buying climax is here, the automatic reaction was there, second test was there. That's fine, that also works. What happened here would then be an upthrust, and then a second test right after the upthrust. Also, well, you can call that an LPSY. I've got a terminology that you probably won't find in the traditional Wyckoff analysis. I call this the AR2. Basically, it's the similar thing that happened for buying climax, but because it's for the upthrust, I add a 2 at the back. It's basically the same automatic reaction. And then we've got a sign of weakness over there. Likewise, we have 1 over here. You can say that's a sign of weakness for the upthrust as well, but let's not complicate things, especially in the daily chart, because the chart will look crazily busy. So the funny thing here is, if I tag this as a sign of weakness instead of this point, we won't get to where I want to get to. So what I was trying to get to was, this is actually not that. That's how tricky it is when we try to tag Wyckoff cycles in the daily chart, because the big guys aren't really working on the daily level. They look at weekly, if not monthly. Their plans are huge, so those big moves doesn't happen in daily, unless it's the crazy events like the one on October 10th. Okay, so what it is then over here, the plan I was having was that's the preliminary support, and that's actually a selling climax over there. Yeah, it's either, I would put it here, and then automatic rally, and then subsequent tests, or you can call that a second test, and then another test here, this red candle, or these candles, before the spring that happened on June 22nd. Right? That's a sign of strength right there, mid-June, and that's where it is. And then we have that backup and last point of support period, and that lead us to this PSY, and then buying climax, automatic reaction, second test, sign of weakness period, this whole bunch of candles during early August, and then subsequently you can say that's an LPSY over here on 10th of August, and there's 1, 2 multiples, okay, along this line. You can say those are like lower levels sign of weaknesses, and then we get to these subsequent tests. You can still call them LPSYs, doesn't matter. And now they get deeper and deeper and deeper, all the way until the point where we see a selling climax. If you ask me, this one can be something similar to what happened over here, that this may be a high point selling climax. It is going to be tricky because it's either we're still at the late stage distribution, or an accumulation may have already started. So if that's the case, this one, instead of an LPSY, that would be an automatic rally. Okay, but my thinking is more inclined to we're still within the late distribution, that the accumulation still hasn't happened, because like I said in the very beginning, you probably have forgotten it by now because I have injected too many information at once, that the weekly controls what happened in the daily. If the weekly is coming down for an accumulation, certainly in the daily, that's not going to be the end of it. So that's likely won't be the selling climax, not the accumulation cycle has started. Okay, so we're putting all the Wyckoff tags. So if this is really the LPSY, alright, that means this is going to be lower, and what's coming next is the preliminary support. Alright, automatic rally obviously is after the selling climax. Hey, we've got some, hi, yeah, Trader P0, thank you, and also Huang Mai. Yeah, go PENGU. So here, if this is not ending yet, like if it is not really coming down for an accumulation, whether it's like somewhere around the red key level all the way to the yellow, it's going to trade horizontally somewhere around the current levels between the green and the blue key levels. So there is still a chance for the price to come back. Alright, so let's say if it's going to come back for more tests that potentially aligns with, or have to align with, not 60, 70, the percentages we put into the weekly chart. So that's 70% to the downside, 30% to the upside. Same thing here, 70% to the downside, 30% to the upside. So be ready. If you enter a trade at this point, always have your stop loss, just to make sure the big guys aren't going to swing the price to one side and kill your order. Okay, that's all for PENGU. Hope you like it. It's an interesting period for all the altcoins, likewise for PENGU. And if the projects have long-term value and a vibrant community, in the long run they will still continue to thrive. So thanks for joining me today. See you in the next session. Ciao.